Alright, continuing chapter. An interesting idea for the interplay. Finally, the day before I left, I realized we would make a fortune in Puerto Rico as long as we dealt down to the end of the deck. My idea began from a couple of evenings earlier when M was very impressed with courteous, friendly, relaxed atmosphere in Puerto Rican casinos. It was different with the experience with Las Vegas, travel to Nevada, gambling, massage. He asked N to count aces for him with the chips. He worked Ryan next, and it was 10 aces, and he worked out fine. N would take turns fully relieving us of our counting chores by assistance with chips. Surprisingly, N was doing and appeared to pass unnoticed. This made me realize it's feasible to count all of the cards every so often. We could know the dealer's precise hole card. The profits could be spectacular. Practice a miniature tally sheet in our rooms the next afternoon. My idea was that the player could be assisted by a helper who counted all the cards with a tally sheet. We should start the beginning of the two fresh decks by taking 7 hands at $1 each, playing them out with a basic strategy. This would be repeated to the utmost of the two decks quickly. With now 102 cards are actually played to the 104 cards in the two decks. So if the top one is burned and the bottom one is pulled back, about 3 cards are used per hand. So the round of 7 hands plus the dealer is about 24 cards used, and 3 much some of the rounds of 72 cards are used, leaving us with about 30. Suppose that this in fact happens for the actual game. We would next take the some number of the hands with the guarantee of the box will run out in the following round, but it must run out after the dealer gets the whole card, so we can then tell from our count what the whole card is. We can take enough hands so that there will be 16 or a little fewer cards left after the round. Reason for the uncertainty, but at this stage that we can control the advance of how many cards. If any dealer will draw, in this case with the 5-player hands plus 2 cards drawn, and 6-player hands plus no cards drawn, will use 12 cards. Since the dealer hand uses 2 more cards than the original 30, this would leave us 16 cards left of the numbers for the dealer draw to the whole. Suppose it turns out that drawing 2 cards, then will be 14 cards left to play with the final deal with the box, plus 1 card that will not be played. We now take 6 hands and bet the maximum $50 on each of them. 14 cards, just enough to deal out all of the whole cards of dealer's 2 cards. Our card is face up. We can see all of them as well with the dealer's up card. We now try with the first hand, no matter what is the value of the dealer's put, and the last card. Notice it is the last card and refuses to give it to us once we had seen uncounted the cards. The only card left unseen with the dealer's whole card. We now know for our count what the card is. After the dealer shuffled the cards we got onto the playing out our 6 hands, we asked whether we'll still want to draw on the first hand, and the casino rule is that we had to draw on to this hand because we have requested the card before the shuffle. We should have counted by only betting $1 on his hand. Playing strategy when the dealer's whole card is known. We play with a hand and 5 others new for the basic strategy. The basic means that there are for simplicity only. We're not getting information about any of the cards of the dealer's 2 cards and the whole of the cards of the hand been played. Instead of a separate playing strategy for each of the cards up card, now we have a separate strategy for each pair of the dealer's cards. There are 55 such pairs. Strategy calculated in detail. Julian Brown forwarded to me some months before Puerto Rican trip. The result are given in table 6-1. No, the strategies are very much alike against dealer cards of the sum whole total with LeBron calculated with the player's advantage in one deck game with typical rules. Note that the dealer's whole card is 9.9%. Just a matter of general interest. Braun found the dealer also wins all ties in such a game, and the player would still have an edge of 2.1%, which omits somewhat different player strategy for this situation. Value of knowing the dealer's whole card, we could have the average of $25, $50 per hand by 5 hands times 10%. And if the sum of the per box, you can complete count of all of the cards determine the dealer's whole card. We played at least 6 hours. Boxes an hour, 6 hours per evening. Rest of the 2, this would have been $900 per evening, a living wage. But we were unable to become proficient enough as a team, so we get started before we left. The Puerto Rican rules changed soon afterwards as a result of the Solomon exploits, so we never have the opportunity to take advantage of this method. An ordinary game The player sometimes finds out about the dealer's hole card. If the first time this happened to me, one of the biggest trips in a hotel in Las Vegas, when the man was playing alone with a $5 million minimum table. He was betting $200 and $500 on each hand, winning rapidly with more than he had ever. He and the dealer seemed to be getting along just fine. I sat down, bet $25 to $100, figuring that my activities would get unnoticed alongside his bigger bets. I soon noticed that the dealer had 17 or more. The player always hit hands on 16 or less. Once when the dealer had a 10 up in the 6 in the hole, the player stood on the 12. Then I noticed the dealer was tipping off the player as whether he had a stiff at 12 or 16 or probable stiff 4 and 6, looking unnecessarily long at this hand. If he had a pat hand at 17 to 21, probably good hand 7 and 11. Or a soft 12 to a soft 16. Looked at the hand for only an instant. He was telling the player what to do, playing 17 or more. Looked for the only brief hand on hard 12 and looked at a long time. Of course, the details became apparent after the while with the cut with the tip of the pat on part right. Away in the next 20 minutes, the player won an additional $2,000. He tipped over the dealer $300. I won about $500 at the same time. Dealer went off duty and the situation broke up. The dealer with Nevada has an ace for 10 up. He checks his whole card for additional cards to any of the players. If he has a natural, the hand is settled then and there. If the dealer is inexperienced, he may give away some of the information about the whole card. For example, if up card is an ace and the whole card is small, some of the inexperienced dealers very quickly from the lack of the paint that is not a 10 and pause only briefly. If the card is a 10, the reverse happens, and now they wonder if they have an ace. The whole card is large, so you can see this very quickly, and small, but must then hold the card up quite a lot before deciding not to. An ace, Mr. F sees Chapter 12. Give me this gratitude after I had won $1,600 standing benefit of him. Mr. X at the Las Vegas Cop Club. Couple of hours one evening, Mr. F and his cronies and all the dealers gave away the tell. At La Larga, Salomon wins $50,000. We left Puerto Rico with fond memories and hoping to return with another pleasure of the trip. The after school was out, and in the summer, the Solomon was fearful that our visit with the impending return would speed of the day when the Puerto Rican ghost would stop laying golden eggs for him. He began to bet and limit of favorable situations. Within another 2 months, his winning arose to $50,000. Salomon had played an average of 5 to 6 nights a week with 7 to 8 hours a night with 9 months for figure 40 hours a week for 40 weeks. His 1600 hours at 150 hands an hour. He played 248,000 hands. He won $50,000 without ever making a bet over $50 per hand, except for the comparatively few instances where he doubled down. This is the longest casino test of the point account that I know of, and spectacular demonstration of methods are in action. In Las Vegas, with a $500 limit in the honest game, the result would have been $500,000 instead. Despite the modest amount that he won, the Solomons win one of the most greatest marathon feats of the gambling history, and a lot of the Largo long run to show the Puerto Rico casinos and handwriting on the wall. Rules on the change of the Puerto Rico casinos had stopped the practice of telling to the end of the box or against the good players of Solomon M. And then, for example, they had reshuffled as often as necessary, but I learned the sad news when Solomon called me to see what could be done about this. I advised him to hunt for the greener pastures, try Panama, Peru, Aruba, and continue cautiously Grand Bahamas. Stay out of Haiti. That the Dominican Republic may take U.S. Marines to get your winnings, if any, out. I told them that Las Vegas was harsh and pitless place. At the time, there was a parish particularly served with a severe cheating problem, but he could win heavily if they could dodge the cheating, and he had adopted the paper route technique described in Chapter 9, and he tried Las Vegas, was soon stripped of $2,500. Last I heard of Solomon was that he was waxing prosperously in balmy Puerto Rico. He was proud owner of a fleet taxi cabs, which paid him $100 a week each in rental. He dailies on the beautiful warm beaches and eat in the nightclub, living life in the life of a playboy. Every once in a while, he hears a good blackjack game in the Caribbean and rushes over to kill it, but then he longs wistfully for good old days when money grew on trees and he had to do was go out and pick it. Chapter 7: the complete points count system.